Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today we just got all of the news and our first look at Seasons 2.0 coming to The Division 2. Today we had a developer stream where Yannick, the creative director on the game, and Daria, our community developer, went live to play the TU22 PTS live on stream for us and demonstrate all of the new systems and features that are coming with Seasons 2.0. Alongside that, they answered a lot of live questions, just gave us a lot of insight into what's coming. So in this video, we're going to recap absolutely everything that they went over, and we definitely have a lot to get through. A few quick notes off the top that they went through throughout the stream. The PTS starts tomorrow, so everything you're going to see them go through and play on screen, you can play for yourself if you're on PC, that is, starting tomorrow. They didn't give an exact time for when the preload is going to be available, but that will be later today on Ubisoft Connect, so be sure to do that. One other big thing that they confirmed pretty quickly, because a lot of people were asking, seasonal characters are gone. There was a lot of speculation on if they are going to remain because of the slightly ambiguous wording of the announcement that we got like 2 months ago. Seasonal characters are not going to be a thing in The Division 2, so if you're wondering at all how that's going to work, what are they? Get it out of your mind, because they're not even relevant anymore. The other thing they confirm, and this is pretty big, is that there is a huge balancing pass that has been done this update. Yannick said, and I quote, almost every item in the game has been rebalanced. So it was not a highlight of this stream. The only reason people picked up on it is because they realized that while he was using a St. Elmo's engine, it now had a 60-round mag. He said there have been some slight nerfs, but across the board, there's been a lot of buffs to exotics, gear sets, all that kind of stuff, right? Again, we don't have further details as of right now. They said it will be on the patch notes, which drops later today in about an hour from when I'm recording this is my understanding. So all of this stuff is going to be coming out today. I'm going to get the videos out as quickly as I can. Be sure you got those notifications on if you don't already so that you know when I post. But as always, none of the stuff in the PTS is final. Be sure to give your feedback and they will take it into consideration. And for all the people saying they never listen to feedback, they remove seasonal characters. That was like one of the biggest parts of this update and this change. Those are now gone, so they do take feedback, and let's give them what we think about the PTS. The only other thing I wanted to add here is that it does kind of confirm throughout all the stuff we see in here that this next season is going to be based around Theo Parnell. They tried to hide it by putting Aaron Keener as the profile for the season target and all that stuff, but you can see not only the icon for the season has the glasses on, that's his thing, but also when they take a look at some of the Manhunt objectives, it's quotes from him as well. So just thought I'd point that out for any of y'all who were curious. But let's get to it, Seasons 2.0. So they went through three major categories that we're going to cover here. The first was the seasonal journey, then we'll get on to the seasonal modifiers, and lastly we have the Manhunt Scouts. But they showed the seasonal journey first, and this first screen that you're going to see when you log into any new season of The Division 2 is that instead of character XP and shade XP being the main way to progress your season pass, there is now a series of these different missions and journeys that provide increasingly harder objectives. And they said that this will be your main XP offering for the season, for your season pass. Additionally though, it's not meant to last you the entirety of a season. These are meant to be kind of your first steps when you walk into a new season. And that's indicated by the fact that you unlock the new modifiers that we're going to talk about by going through these various steps and journeys. They clarified that these journeys are not time-gated throughout the duration of a season, rather the different tiers that you'll see on screen unlock automatically depending on your character level, so you can actually begin a season now at character level 1. You'll have just the first journey available, and then they said there's, I don't know, different tiers like level 5, 10, etc. So they're not time-gated, but they are tiered by your level, and that means that seasons are no longer just endgame specific. You can start it at level 1. As you can see, there are 8 objectives available per journey, but you only need to complete 6 of them to finish that tier and move on to the next one, so you have some player agency in that regard. Each journey will offer you different rewards. As you can see later on, they said there's exotic components and some even better rewards. And then starting at the 4th tier, the 4th mission, journey, whatever you want to call it, that is when you unlock your first seasonal modifier, a new ISAC mod unlocks. And then you unlock 2 more at tiers 5 and 6, and those are kind of your core modifiers. We'll get into that whole system, but those are the core ones that you'll need for the season. After you start making your way through this journey, which again they said are the first steps of a season, you move on to the priority objective system. And this, from what we know, are randomized objectives that will backfill themselves that allow you to basically go out and do different content in the game for various rewards. So the example they showed here is that there's different categories you can note at the top, like doing a stronghold or something in the open world, etc. It tells you both the duration and reward, and they did note that these are the secondary XP path for seasons, right? So you get a lot through the journey, but then you'll get even more as you play this stuff. And as you can see, even though you get the category, you have to kind of decipher what the actual objective is. So once you choose a category, it then tells you what you need to do. You do have rerolls available as well. You earn these by doing more priority objectives. So if you roll something, you're like, I really don't want to play whatever it tells me right now, you can re-roll it, try and get something else. The cool part is that priority objectives will organically filter who owns the expansions in the game and who doesn't. So they said that people who own Warlords, you can get an objective to spawn in New York. They also said that once the Brooklyn DLC unlocks, that will filter in here as well. You could get objectives in Brooklyn and go do that if you don't want to be in Washington, D.C. But of course, the ones in Washington will always be there because that is the base version of the game. And as you can see through the rewards here, as we talked about, there's different stuff, but they said those categories involve materials, shade XP, season XP, exotics, and maybe the most desirable one, at least at first when a season comes out, is you can earn different modifiers here. And again, we're about to get into the whole menu where you can slot these in and out, but farming modifiers is going to be a big part of the season, and that's all through the priority objective system. Speaking of, though, let's move on to the modifiers themselves. They have a whole new inventory screen here. It's a whole new node within your inventory to access the seasonal modifiers and your ISAC mods. And they said everything that you're going to see here changes every season, right? There's a new global modifier, new active ones, new passive ones to farm, new enemy modifiers. Again, we'll get to all of that. That changes every season. The one you're seeing right now is just for Year 6 Season 2. First, they state that these global modifiers are active for all content in the game except for PvP and Descent, right? Those two modes are excluded, but that means that raids, incursions, legendary missions, everything else are subject to these modifiers. It's important to note that you can manually deactivate these modifiers if you choose to. You're not forced into using them, and this also comes into play for global events. Those are still going to remain, but you have to choose between which of those two you want to do, so you can activate and deactivate as you like. But let's get into the details. Firstly, they said the main global modifier for this season is going to be Point Blank, which basically deals with, as you can read on screen, stacking amplified damage for longer ranges that you engage enemies at. So that's like the base level modifier, right? But then you have an active modifier. I believe there's 3 choices here, and they said this is up to the player for which one they want to do. And it basically serves as an ultimate ability, right, for the player to take the greatest advantage. And one that they showed us was Reversal, which would basically swap the damage values and ranges so that closer range combat is more effective compared to the longer range one of the base modifier. Beyond that, you then have a whole tree of passive modifiers. You can choose up to 3 of these to slot in. They have different categories here, as you can see, for each damage zone. Some are also multi-zone. And again, the whole layout of this will change every season because this is specifically for the global modifier of dealing with damage ranges, so this is all subject to change season per season. And essentially, these passive modifiers just augment and tweak the overall modifier, difficulty, all that stuff even more. That'll come into play soon. And finally, there are then hostile modifiers. They said there are 4 of these each season. These are not choice-based. They will unlock as you progress through the season. And what it is a way to then power the enemies up in correlation to this same theme and modifier. It's basically giving the enemies their own range powers to counteract all of the bonuses and powers that we have. And the way that Yannick explained it on here, he said it's going to present new types of challenges in the gameplay, right? If you're doing some of this content that you've already played hundreds, thousands, millions of times before, it should feel and you should play distinctly different based off of what these enemy modifiers are. They said it's essentially the equivalent of enemies having their own talents, like we would have on a build, right? The specific descriptions here are unintentionally blanked out. They said they're not trying to hide them. That's just some weird thing in the PTS. But one of them, as he gets into later, is that if you're dealing with enemies at the improper range, they will reflect the damage back at you, right? So there's a lot of things to take into consideration depending on what these enemy modifiers are going to be. All right, that was the majority of what they talked about with modifiers. We'll talk a bit more about it when we get to the live gameplay soon, but then they went on to Manhunt Scouts. Again, for those who remember the previous season's 2.0 coverage, this is the new presentation of the Manhunt content and system within the game. No longer are we just going to have 4 sub-target stuff that unlocks every like 3 or 4 weeks. Manhunt Scouts now unlock weekly. There are 14 in total. These are only available at level 40, right? So even though the rest of the season you can start doing at level 1, these are 40 exclusive. Again, 1 drops per week. And then once you complete the 14th one, that is when you can access the Climax mission and the new Master difficulty, which we'll talk about soon. They noted that these things can be played in co-op, but only the group leader will earn the main reward. I'm wondering if this is because of some of the bugs they've had with that stuff in the past, so it seems like you might have to do some of this stuff solo if you want to get all of the full lore drops and all of that. They did note that the first few scouts here are going to be available in the PTS, so if you don't want to see some of the minor story spoilers that might come with that, then be warned when you're watching various PTS coverage. But basically how they're going to work is that you will get these riddles, as you can see on screen. You get a clue, and the player needs to decipher it to go and complete the objective. So for this one, it gives the clue that the overall objective is within the Foggy Bottom zone in Washington, D.C., and that it has to do with taxis. Obviously, that one's not too hard. You can figure out that you do I think it's called the Taxi Graveyard Control Point. Once you complete that, you would then unlock the next one. I think there's 3 objectives per scout, and then at the end of that, you would get your rewards, including one of the lore comms. And then, as we said, once you do all 14 of the scouts for a season, that will unlock the final Climax mission that we're used to, but now this comes with Master difficulty. And while they didn't want to give a ton of details, we did learn a little bit about Master here. firstly, Yannick said he doesn't want to directly try and compare it to other difficulties that already exist within the game, but he did say that it will be harder than heroic difficulty. But the way they're making these master missions is that they're tuned for the modifier, right? They're really going to play into that season's themes and strengths based on what the modifiers are that you have unlocked. So for Year 6 Season 2, there's going to be some sort of range elements built into this, it seems like. And they said that, you know, the way that you've learned and mastered these modifiers throughout the duration of a season, you're going to have to use those skills to most effectively take on master difficulty. They said that this won't be on the PTS because, of course, that would come with a lot of spoilers, but that's definitely something to look forward to. Alright, but then they moved on to some live gameplay of us seeing what was going on here. Yannick went to the Lincoln Memorial because that was the priority objective that he selected, which would reward him with one of the new seasonal modifier mods. But the first thing you'll notice is that you have a new UI on your crosshairs to denote what range the NPC is for the specific seasonal modifier bonus. Again, they're going to be changing these every season. This is not going to be active all the time, but it's here so that you can really play around the new modifier that we have in our arsenal. You'll see that NPCs have new icons on them as well in relation to the seasonal modifiers. I couldn't tell you what specific one is over their head right now, but they said this is a work in progress implementation, so this might not be the final look when the season launches. And we'll come back to the gameplay so you can see some of it, but afterwards he does show himself equipping the new modifier that he earned from the priority objective. This is one of the passive ones. Again, it's going to be a whole progression throughout the season to unlock this whole tree, to find the right bonuses and kind of build with the modifiers that works for you. It's all going to play into how you play the game. So there's definitely going to be a lot of experimentation and theory crafting to be done there. After that, they then moved on to a pretty lengthy live gameplay and Q&A session, so we'll just go down the list here of what they talked about. Firstly, they clarified that the season pass remains. They're not showing it, I believe, in this first phase of the PTS. They said there will be 2 phases, but it's not active for right now. One change there is that there's now only going to be one season track, right? There's no longer a free version and a paid version. There are still items that are free. It's not like they're taking that away. It's all just consolidated into one track. But as you go from 1 to 100, there's going to be some items that are free for everybody and some that are only available if you pay for the premium pass. They did note that you're going to see less items on the free track, but not to freak out about that right away because they're injecting more rewards throughout these seasonal activities, and I think that's pretty evident by the journey stuff, right? The priority objectives, you're going to be earning a lot of XP and materials and all of that stuff from there, which I think is, you know, largely what you would have earned from doing the season pass before. Somebody asked about the 5th character slot that we were intended to get with the new seasonal character edition. They've said that that is not coming anymore, unfortunately, because they're not doing that overall system, but they are kind of looking into how to use that slot later on since they already did the work to make it, you know, feasible within the game. They confirmed that leagues are no longer a part of seasons. They just don't really fit in with how the modifiers are going to work and with how they've restructured things in the back end. They're just not going to currently be a thing, but they talked about maybe they'll bring something like leagues back in certain events later on. We'll see. Speaking of events, they did confirm a pretty awesome one that's coming up. It's going to be called the Throwback event. Again, this is going to be part of Year 6 Season 2, so we still have a little bit until this comes, but it's going to be a limited time deal where you can replay all of the past seasons from the Division 2 in their entirety in order. So from Season 1, what was it called, Shadowtide, up until, you know, Year 6 Season 1 of First Rogue, I assume. All of the past seasons are going to rotate through. There's going to be 2 days of availability per prior manhunt. They are also going to be tied to global events that will be active while you're playing through this. And they said by playing the global event and by earning stars, you can then purchase specific caches that correlate with that season's specific rewards. So for example, if you were to play Season 1, Shadowtide, with whatever global event is active during this Throwback event, you could take your stars and earn caches that would then give you what sets came in that season. It was Striker and something else, but basically you would earn whatever gear set, brand set, named items, whatever, from that specific season if you buy those caches during that time. So of course we'll get more information as this gets closer, but this seems like a pretty awesome way for them to bring back that content that a lot of people have been wanting to play for a long time now, and it should be a good way for people to catch up on the story, the overall flow of how these seasons went, if you didn't play at that time. Somebody asked about the ducks that we keep seeing in the Manhunt missions, and they did say to keep shooting them. Apparently there's some kind of achievement or secret that is going to unveil itself in relation to the ducks. I'm not sure what the actual, details are there. They've been in prior missions. It's not just the recent Keener one, but that's what the dev said. Keep shooting the ducks. They confirmed that there was some pretty positive reception from the community to the 3x XP event that was going on. So they said that they are going to bring more XP events in the future. No news on an increase to stash space, as some people were asking. They said, as always, they're still looking into it. And Yannick did say, this is a quote from him, they are hoping to give you a bit more room soon in regards to overall storage in the Division 2. No specific changes or things coming to hardcore characters this season, but they did say that with the new seasonal model, it is something that they tend to look into, giving hardcore some kind of attention or something. We'll see. As always, they got a question about cheaters. They said cheaters are regularly dealt with, even if it looks like it's not. You know, there's always going to be more out there, unfortunately, but they are regularly banning people. They encourage players to continue sending reports via Ubisoft support, as they are the ones within the Ubisoft ecosystem that have the power to deal out sanctions like that. They got a question about the specialization revamp. They reaffirmed, as we've heard before, that the first prototype for it just really didn't work out, so the system and all that stuff is still on ice for now, but it's not ruled out that they might revisit it in the future. They got a question about one-strap backpacks, which again I've explained in videos before, unfortunately just don't work with how the Division 2's character models are. It would be a huge effort and rework for them to retune how animations are and all that stuff for one-strap stuff to work, so that's not something that they have in the plans for now. Additionally, they have no future raids in the current plans, which we did here 2 months ago in that Seasons 2.0 article. That's not something that they're currently working on. Yannick did give a bit of a wink and a nod that exotic transmog might be coming. That's all. I don't know if that means changing exotic items to other looks, you know, if you have that on your build, or changing other items to look like exotics. I'm not sure, but he gave some kind of a wink and a nod there. They got questions about the Chinese version of the game, which frankly I'm kind of sick of hearing about because of all the differences that a lot of people just, I don't think, realize with what that is. But anyway, they said that they are like the Chinese version and our version of the game are distant cousins. It is possible to bring some of the stuff that they get over to the Division 2. They said they will do that on a case-by-case basis moving forward. But you know, what I keep stressing to people is that that game runs on PC only, and at that it's scaled for high-end PCs, so content and items that they make have to be really reworked to work on our version because we're working with the Xbox One and the PS4 that are a decade old. But anyway, he said it's not impossible to see stuff from there in the future. They confirmed that TU 21.5 will be coming in 1 to 2 weeks time to fix the ongoing PvP glitch and a lot more stuff, so that's good to hear. And they closed out by mentioning that they are considering doing this stream format that they've used today more frequently to connect with the community. I think that would definitely be a cool thing to see. It's always good to hear from the devs themselves, so we'll see what we learn there. But that is going to do it, everybody. That is the recap of the Seasons 2.0 dev stream that we got today. Very much hope you enjoyed and got all of the information that you were hoping to see. There's going to be a lot to break down, and again, all of this will be playable for us tomorrow on the PTS. I'm going to be going live tomorrow morning. I'll post the exact timing on the community tab later today, so tune in if you want to see me play through this. We can look at all of the systems for ourselves. But for now, I would love to hear your guys' reactions to everything that we learned about. What do you think about the new seasonal journey, that whole system, priority objectives, the modifiers, everything that we got coming? I would love to hear what you think down below. Again, expect another video in a few hours here. We're going to be going over the patch notes with the new seasonal gear, this huge balancing pass that they teased. We'll see what that entails. So a lot of news and videos and everything coming up over the next, few days and the weekend here. Tune in for it all. For now, though, that's all I've got, folks. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Until then, RogueGold. Out.